Welcome, this is Carrie Shell from On Point Quilter, and today's video will be about creating a hexagon table topper with electric quilt. To start my table topper, I'm going to go to the library and select some blocks. And for this I'm going to start with maybe some of just the 9-patch stars because I think they work nice for a hexagon table topper. So I'm just going to page through here and find a few that I like. And now what I'm going to do is actually recreate one of my blocks in Patch Draw. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Sketchbook, go to the Block tab, select one of the blocks, and I'm going to select Edit It, go to the Color tab, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to export a marquee selection. And that in essence takes a picture of the block, and I'm going to save that to the file, and this is called Swamp Angels. And now I'm going to do a new block, but I'm going to do a patch draw block. And I'm going to go to the tracing image, and I'm going to import the image, and I'm going to find my Swamp Angel block and open it. And I'm going to click OK, and then just click inside my block, and you can see that the block shows and fills the space very nicely. So now I'm going to go to the Pieced tab, and from there I'm going to first of all just look at my snap settings, and this is a 6-inch block, and I've got it set at 24, which would be basically snapping everything to a 1/4 inch. So I like that. I'm going to now pick up the Poly Draw tool, and I'm going to start by doing this one triangle shape. And when I need to do all of the sides of the shape, when I reach back to the beginning, I need double click, and now the patch is complete. And I'm going to then do one of these 1/4 square triangles as well, again double clicking. And once I've got that, I can actually do a Control-C, Control-V to copy it, and I'm going to rotate it. And when I rotate, then I can move that to fill in one of the other spaces, and I will copy and rotate again. And that 4th space looks like it's filled in, but it isn't, so I need to again rotate, copy and rotate, and fill that in. Now I actually have all the shapes other than that square in the center done, so I'm going to select everything that I've done so far, and I'm going to Control-C, Control-V that, and rotate the whole unit. So I don't have to do all of those units again. I've actually got that whole side done. Control-C, Control-V, rotate, Control-C, Control-V, and rotate that, and move that into place. And now I need to use my Poly Draw and do the center square. Double click, and I can now color. And what I have actually done is I loaded some fabrics from Marcus Brothers. This was a Christmas collection, and since it's that time of year, I thought it would be sort of fun to play with that. And I now have a nice Christmas block and a good start to a table topper. So I'm going to add that to the sketchbook. Now I'm going to go, and I want to actually work on the Quilt tab. So I'm going to go to Work on Quilt. The layout for this is a custom set layout. It defaults to 48 by 48. I'm going to just bring that down to 25 by 25 to 25. And I think that will be big enough. If not, I can change it later. And I'm going to delete my borders because I'm going to create my own. Before I bring my block in, I want to change a few settings. So I'm going to go to the Quilt Work Table option. And the first thing is on setting blocks. There, right now it's set to come in all blocks at 6 by 6. I actually am going to want to use the size recorded in the block, and that will become apparent later why I chose that. Then under the snap settings, I want to take off the snap block position to grid and take off the snap block size to grid. And on the layout options, I want to go to the All Styles tab and note that it should be checked to don't resize contents of layers when resizing the quilt. And I'll press OK. Okay, now I'm going to set a block. And I'm going to take that new block that I just developed and bring it in to my work table. This was 6 inches, and I think that's going to be a little bit small, so I'm going to bring that up to 12 inches. And I'm going to center that. And now I want to add borders all the way around all 8 sides. And that can be a little tricky, so let me take you through how I'm going to do that. I'm first going to zoom in, and I'm going to do this side here first, and I want to measure how long it is. So I've used the tape measure, and I'm just going to drag from one corner to the other, and it's 5.7, and I'm actually going to want to go to 1/4 inch, so I'm going to assume it's 5.75. So now what I want to do is go back to work on block, and I'm going to set up a new block, and I'm going to call this a patch draw block as well. And on my tracing image, I'm going to actually delete the image because I no longer want that. And now I'm going to set this to a width of 5.75, which was what I had measured that side to be. And I want a sashing in here first, so I'm going to have a height of 1 inch. Okay, I do need to also take a look at my snaps, and typically, again, I like to do for every 1/4 inch. So if it had been 6 inches, the 24 would be great. However, it's 5.75, so I'm going to change that to 23. And now I can draw my block, and I'm going to go to one by one, and I'm going to bring this in 1 inch. So since it was 5.75, I want to go to 4.75. Go down and double click to close the block. And I'm going to color this. Maybe I'll just use this red and add it to the sketchbook. And I'm going to go back and work on quilt. So I'm going to set a block, and because I had changed this to use the block size, it will come in at 5.75 inches long. So I'm going to close this. Now use the adjust tool, and I want to rotate this block 45 degrees. And I'm going to place it right next to the block that I just developed here. Okay, I like that. So now, once I've done that, I can do a Control-C and Control-V to create a copy. And I'm going to rotate the block, and once I've done that, I need to resize it and just change the width and the height around. So 1 across and 5.75 long. And I'm going to pull this over here. I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm going to measure from this corner to this corner, and it looks like that is 6.9. So I'm going to assume the next one is 7 inches. So I'm going to go back to working on my block, and I'm now going to change this to 7 inches by 1 inch. And my snap setting needs to be 7 times 4, because again to the 1/4 inch, which would be 28. And I can now pick this up and move this over to basically 1 inch in. Yeah. Let's make sure I get that. I can color that also and add it to the sketchbook. Go back to work on quilt, and now when I set block, I can bring the new one in, use the adjust tool to place it where I want to. Control C, Control V, rotate the block once, and change the size to 1 by 7. Again, just moving the horizontal and the vertical. Now I'm going to put a 2-inch border all the way around. And to do that, I'm going to start by measuring again now from this corner to this corner, and that is 6.5 inches. So go back to work on block, and I'm going to change the height to 2 and the width to 6.5. And again, the 6.5, if I take that times 4, that would be 26 for the snap points. And I'm going to move this so it now hits the 2-inch mark, and this to hit 4.5, which would be 2 inches in from the 6.5. And now I'm going to use the tape measure and measure the top. And this looks like it measures 10.5. So I'm going to go back to my work on block. I'm going to do one other thing and just take all of the pieces and move them up to the upper right corner, and I'm going to use my tape measure to look at the size, and it is 17.9. So I'm just going to go back and change my layout to 18 by 18. My quilt is done, so I'm going to add that to the sketchbook. Now I'm going to show you a quick way, because I spent a fair amount of time doing the layout, but it's really easy to replace that center block with other blocks as well. So let's go ahead and use the adjust tool and just eliminate that. And I'm going to add block, and I'm just going to pick one of these other blocks out there, and I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to resize that to 12 by 12, and I'm going to fit that in place. And now what I'm going to do is click on the send to back, and that brought the whole block to the very back. Now it didn't change any of the piecing. If I wanted to actually change the piecing to take off that corner, I would need to retrace it in patch draw like I did the first one. But I'm just doing this to see what a different block would look like. But I'm going to go to my spray can tool, and I'm just going to play with some different fabrics here, and on this, and a different layout. So did you see that probably took about 30 seconds, and I now have another option that I can add to my sketchbook. Thanks so much for watching. For additional videos, or just to keep up on new things being posted each week, subscribe to my blog at www.onpointquilter.com.